Alright, let's dive deep into a phone that's trying to carve out a very specific niche in a world of ever-expanding giants. Imagine a device that promises flagship muscle, but in a form factor that's actually manageable. That's the dream, isn't it? And today, we're seeing if the OnePlus 13s turns that dream into a reality. This isn't just another phone. It's a statement, a response to a market saturated with pocket busters. So let's get into it and see if this quote flagship truly delivers on its bold claims. You know, it feels like every year our smartphones are hitting the gym, bulking up, getting bigger, wider, and sometimes just a bit too much to handle comfortably. And while many folks love those cinematic slabs, there's a growing chorus of us asking, where are the powerful phones that don't require a two-handed grip for everything? OnePlus seems to have heard those whispers, or perhaps even some loud shouts, because they've introduced the OnePlus 13s. They're calling it their first compact flagship. Now that's a loaded term, isn't it? Compact suggests something easy to wield, and flagship implies top-tier power with minimal cut corners. The big question is, can the 13s truly be both? OnePlus has been pretty upfront, telling us they've made a real effort to keep the compromises to a minimum. That's a tune we've heard before with other smaller phones that often ended up being flagship light, sometimes very light. So our journey today is to dissect the OnePlus 13s, piece by piece, and see if it genuinely lives up to that flagship moniker, or if compact came with too many asterisks. Let's find out if this is the answer many of us have been waiting for. There's something undeniably exciting about cracking open a new piece of tech, and OnePlus has always had a certain flair with its presentation. The OnePlus 13s arrives in that instantly recognizable vibrant red box, a hallmark of the brand. It's a bold statement before you even see the phone. Sliding off the lid, you're greeted with the device itself, but let's put that aside for just a moment and see what else OnePlus has bundled in. True to form, you'll find the essentials. A color-matched silicone case, which is a really nice touch, especially for those of us in markets like India, where this is standard. It offers a decent level of protection right out of the gate. And honestly, for many, it might be the only case they'll ever need. No immediate rush to a third-party accessory store, which is always a plus. Then, you've got the powerhouse, an 80W SU-PERVOOC charger. We'll talk more about what this brick can do later, but seeing a charger this capable included in the box is becoming a rarer sight these days, so kudos to OnePlus for that. And, of course, there's the iconic red USB-A to USB-C cable, another OnePlus staple. It's a pretty standard affair, but a complete one. You have everything you need to get going, which is exactly what you want. Now let's talk about the very reason the OnePlus 13s exists, its size. OnePlus is careful to market this as quote rather than small, and that's a crucial distinction. If you're picturing something akin to an iPhone mini or an Asus Zenfone 10, you might need to recalibrate your expectations. The 13s is more in line with the standard-sized iPhones or Samsung's Galaxy S series flagships. In fact, it shares a similar width with those devices, but stretches a bit taller to accommodate its larger screen. So, compact here means not absolutely massive. Visually, the 13s borrows from the modern flat slab aesthetic. We've seen OnePlus do this before, but the 13s takes it a step further with noticeably larger radius corners, giving it a softer silhouette that does echo its Samsung and iPhone counterparts. With the screen off, from a distance you might even mistake it for one of them. The display itself is flat glass. Thankfully, the curved edge trend seems to be receding for many. OnePlus has managed to pack a 6.32-inch display here, partly by keeping the bezels relatively trim. However, and this is where the keen eye will spot imperfections, the bezels aren't uniform. The top and sides are about 1.34 millimeters, but the bottom chin is a thicker 1.845 millimeters. You might think half a millimeter is nothing, but trust me, it's noticeable, especially if you appreciate symmetry. Even more apparent, at least to design purists, is that the corner radius of the display doesn't quite match the physical corner radius of the phone. This leads to the bezels appearing thicker in the corners. And for the truly detail-oriented, the SIM tray on our pink review unit was a slightly different shade than the rest of the frame. These might seem like nitpicks, but for a device marketed with flagship aspirations, this lack of meticulous attention to detail is a bit of a letdown. Flipping it over, the back features a pretty substantial camera module. It's carved from a single piece of aluminum and houses the two lenses, the IR blaster and the LED flash. It does protrude a fair bit, but its sheer size on this relatively compact phone means it doesn't wobble excessively when laid flat. OnePlus claims its placement is optimized to stay out of your way in landscape mode, but in our experience, it was almost impossible not to have your fingers resting directly on the camera glass. Something to keep in mind if you're a mobile gamer or a big video watcher. The back panel itself uses Panda glass, and the finish depends on your color choice. The black model has a metallic sand texture, while the pink, a first for OnePlus, and the India-exclusive green feature what OnePlus calls velvet glass. It's a soft, almost silky texture. It's interesting, though it does feel like OnePlus sometimes goes to great lengths to make its glass backs feel less like actual glass. Ergonomically, this is where the compact nature shines. The 13s feels genuinely good in the hand. The size is manageable for most, and the weight, while not feather-light at 185 grams, is well balanced. The power button is perfectly placed for your thumb, and if you're left-handed, the new plus key, more on that later, falls naturally under your index finger. However, there are a few ergonomic quirks. Reaching the very top of the screen for notifications can still be a bit of a stretch, though it's certainly easier than on a larger phone. The fingerprint sensor placement, though, oh boy. It's positioned way down at the bottom of the screen, making it quite awkward to reach comfortably. And as mentioned, at 185 grams, it feels heftier than its dimensions might suggest. It's dense. In terms of subjective build quality, the OnePlus 13s feel solid and premium. There's no creaking, no flex. It feels like a well-crafted device. Objectively, however, it falls short of many true flagships with its IP65 rating. This means it's dust-tight and can handle low-pressure water jets, so splashes and rain are fine, but it won't survive an accidental dip in the pool or the sink. That's a compromise many flagships don't make. The screen is where we spend most of our time interacting with our phones, so it's gotta be good, right? The OnePlus 13 sports a 6.32-inch AMOLED display with a rather unique resolution of 2640 by 1216 pixels. It's an LTPO panel, which is excellent news, allowing for a variable refresh rate from a buttery smooth 120 Hz all the way down to 1 Hz to save power when you're looking at static content. Brightness is rated at an impressive 1600 nits in high brightness mode HBM and a comfortable 800 nits under normal conditions. This means outdoor visibility, even on a sunny day, shouldn't be an issue. The display also boasts 100% Display P3 color coverage and 10-bit color depth, translating to vibrant, accurate colors with smooth gradients. Support for Dolby Vision, HDR10+, and HDR Vivid means your compatible content will look absolutely stunning. The aspect ratio is a slightly shorter 19.54:9 compared to the 19.8:9 panels OnePlus often uses. This has a minor but noticeable consequence. The front camera punch hole tends to intrude a bit more into typical 18:9 YouTube videos, something that doesn't happen on the larger OnePlus 13 or 13R. A small detail, but worth noting for media consumers. In practical use, the display on the 13s is a joy. Colors pop, text is crisp, viewing angles are wide, and that 120 Hz refresh rate makes every scroll and animation feel incredibly fluid. HDR content, in particular, is a treat. Protecting this lovely panel is Corning Gorilla Glass 7i. Now, this is the same glass found on the more budget-friendly OnePlus 13R. It's a step down from the flagship-grade Victus glass used on more premium devices, so expect slightly less durability against drops and scratches. The same Gorilla Glass 7i is also used for the camera module on the back. Beneath the display lies the optical fingerprint sensor. It's a different beast from the ultrasonic sensors found on the higher-end OnePlus 13. During testing, it worked reliably enough for the most part. However, optical sensors can be finicky if your fingers or the display are wet, and they have that habit of flashing a bright light in the dark, which can be a bit blinding if you're unlocking your phone in bed. It's functional, but not the best in class. Alright, let's talk power, because this is where OnePlus is pinning many of its flagship claims for the 13s. Under the hood, it's packing the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite chipset. This is a serious piece of silicon, the same one found in its bigger sibling, the OnePlus 13. Paired with this, you get a healthy 12 GB of LPDDR5X RAM and a choice of either 256 GB or a whopping 512 gigabytes of UFS 4.0 storage. That's the fast stuff, meaning apps load quickly and files transfer swiftly. Now, cramming such a powerful chip into a more compact body presents a thermal challenge. OnePlus has employed a 4,400 square millimeters vapor chamber to try and keep things cool. While that's larger than what you'd find in most phones of this size, it's notably less than half the size of the massive 9,925 square millimeters vapor chamber in the regular OnePlus 13, which, remember, has the same chip. To help manage heat and prevent uncomfortable hotspots, the 13s also has a graphite sheet under the back glass to spread that thermal energy around. So how does this translate to performance? Well, it's a tale of two cities. In benchmarks, the OnePlus 13s consistently fell a bit short of the full-size OnePlus 13. That smaller heatsink design means the chip can't sustain its absolute peak clock speeds for as long. So during extended, demanding benchmark runs, scores are naturally a tad lower. For instance, in Geekbench 6 multi-core, the 13s scored 9,093, just shy of the 13's 9,278. Similar trends were seen in Antutu and 3D Mark. Interestingly, the review mentions that if you actively cool the 13s down, like externally, it can match the OnePlus 13 scores. This confirms it's not a deliberately underclocked chip, but rather a limitation of the thermal dissipation in its smaller chassis. But here's the crucial part. Benchmarks are one thing, real-world performance is another. And in day-to-day use, the OnePlus 13s is an absolute rocket. Apps fly open, multitasking is a breeze, and the interface is incredibly responsive. It handled the Indian summer heat impressively well, maintaining display brightness even when shooting video outdoors in 40 degrees Celsius temperatures. Gaming performance is also excellent, though it's worth noting that the full 120 Hz refresh rate was reserved for a select list of whitelisted titles, like the popular BGMI. Other games, unfortunately, often defaulted to 60 FPS. So while it might not sustain peak theoretical performance as long as its larger sibling, the Snapdragon 8 Elite has so much raw power that even when it dials back slightly to manage heat, there's still an enormous amount of performance on tap for anything you throw at it. It never feels slow or sluggish. You're getting a genuinely high-end experience. A powerful phone needs a beefy battery, especially if it aims to be a daily driver. The OnePlus 13s houses a single-cell 5,850 mAh Li-ion battery. That's a very generous capacity, especially for a phone of this compact stature. It's notably larger than what you'd find in many competitors of similar size. However, there's an interesting point of comparison made in the review regarding the OnePlus 13T, which apparently shares similar external dimensions and weight, but packs an even more impressive 6,260 mAh SiC silicon-carbon battery. OnePlus told the reviewers that the 13's battery was made smaller to accommodate a better front-facing camera, a 32MP autofocus unit, a first for OnePlus, versus the 13T's 16 megapixels fixed focus shooter. They claim this was a much-requested feature and worth the battery trade-off. The review, however, expresses some skepticism. Comparing internal scans of both devices from OnePlus's own visuals, the motherboards and layouts appear visually identical. There wasn't clear evidence that the battery had to be physically smaller for a bigger camera module. The review speculates this might be more about hitting a specific price point for certain markets, perhaps for the Indian market, where the 13 seems to be keenly priced, rather than a purely engineering-driven decision around the front camera. It's an interesting observation and makes you wonder about the design choices. Regardless of the why, the 5,850 mAh cell is still substantial. And when it comes to juicing it back up, the OnePlus 13s comes with that 80W SUP ERVOOC wired charger. The charging speeds are impressive. You can hit 75% charge from flat in just 30 minutes, and a full 100% shows up on the display in about 51 minutes. Though a true, complete charge to top everything off takes closer to an hour. Oddly, these speeds were noted to be slightly slower than the OnePlus 13R, which has a marginally larger battery but the same 80W charging. For gamers, there's a handy bypass charging feature. This can be enabled through the gaming overlay when you're in a game. It allows the phone to draw power directly from the charger, bypassing the battery. This is great because it prevents the battery from heating up during intense gaming sessions while plugged in. helping to keep overall temperatures lower and potentially prolonging battery health. Now, for a significant omission, especially for a phone with flagship aspirations, there is no wireless charging support on the OnePlus 13s. Whether this was a casualty of budget constraints or internal space limitations, its absence is definitely felt and is a feature many expect at this level. Camera systems are often a make-or-break feature for smartphones, and the OnePlus 13s presents a rather unconventional and, dare I say, controversial setup. Instead of the common wide plus ultra-wide and maybe telephoto combination, the 13s goes for a dual camera system on the back featuring a standard wide lens and a 2x telephoto lens. Notice what's missing. That's right, there's no ultra-wide camera here. Both rear cameras are shared with the OnePlus 13R. You get a 50 MP/1.8 main camera with optical image stabilization, OIS, which is excellent for sharper shots, especially in lower light. The second is a 50 MP/2.02x telephoto camera, but this one relies on electronic image stabilization, EIS only. This wide plus telephoto and no ultra-wide configuration is rare. The review rightly points out that we haven't seen a manufacturer so boldly skip an ultra-wide in favor of a telephoto since perhaps the Google Pixel 4. Typically, if a phone has two cameras, it's a wide and an ultra-wide. The logic is sound. You can often emulate a 2x crop or even higher from a high-resolution main sensor, but you simply cannot fake an ultra-wide perspective without a dedicated lens, short of using external attachments or some AI wizardry. So if you want that sweeping landscape or that fun, distorted close-up shot, you'll literally have to step further back with the 13s. When questioned, OnePlus stated that their research suggests most people prefer using a telephoto camera over an ultra-wide if they had to choose. Polls conducted by the reviewers, both in their office and on social media, actually confirmed this preference. It seems space was indeed at a premium inside the 13s, forcing a choice. However, the critique here is valid. If you're giving up an ultra-wide for a telephoto, users likely expect more than just a 2x zoom. A 2x telephoto barely qualifies as telephoto in the flagship space these days, and the lack of OIS on this lens further diminishes its flagship credentials. It feels like you're not quite getting enough reach for the trade-off. Macro capabilities are also limited due to the lack of an ultra-wide, which often doubles for macro shots, or a dedicated macro lens. The phone can switch to a macro mode using the main camera when you get close to a subject, but only if you have 2x or higher zoom selected. This is because the main camera can't focus closer than about 8 centimeters and needs that digital zoom to magnify the subject sufficiently. The telephoto lens itself has no dedicated macro capabilities. In what seems like an effort to compensate, the front camera on the OnePlus 13s gets a significant upgrade. It's a 3.2 MP sensor, and crucially, it's the first OnePlus phone to feature autofocus on the front camera. This is a notable step up from the 16 megapixels fixed focus unit on the related OnePlus 13T. The 13's front camera can also shoot 4K video at 30 FPS, whereas the 13T was limited to 1080p. This autofocus will be particularly useful for vlogging, or even just ensuring your selfies are consistently sharp. The camera app itself is described as one of the better ones around. It's not Hasselblad branded like the premium OnePlus 13, so the experience is closer to the 13R, but it's well laid out with relevant features, getting out of your way while you're trying to capture the moment. Now for image quality. The 50 megapixels main camera produces good detail, vibrant colors, and punchy contrast, though sometimes at the expense of shadow detail. The processing could be a little inconsistent, with some images occasionally looking oddly flat. The 50 megapixels 2x telephoto camera generally matches the main camera's color profile, often down to that occasional inconsistency. Images from the telephoto are slightly softer, lacking the slight over-sharpening of the main camera, but the detail level is still quite good. The camera app includes a handy 4x toggle. Despite initial doubts, the 2x sensor seems to have enough latitude to produce perfectly usable, even good 4x digitally zoomed images. Macro shots, however, weren't as impressive. They invite close scrutiny, and the main camera, even digitally zoomed to 2x, struggles to deliver sharp detail. The 32 megapixels front camera produces decent image quality, but it suffers from OnePlus's tendency to output full-resolution images from sensors that might be better suited to pixel binning. The default 32-megapixel shots can appear quite soft. Resizing them down to 8 megapixels, however, yields much sharper, more pleasing results. The autofocus is a win, ensuring faces are sharp, and it's particularly helpful in videos if you're trying to show something close to the camera. Video quality from the main and telephoto rear cameras is excellent, in both 4K 30 FPS and 60 FPS. You get ample detail and good colors. The optional Dolby Vision HDR makes videos truly pop, much like Pro XDR does for photos. The only letdown in video is the front camera, which, while capable of 4K, offers neither HDR nor a 60 FPS option. So a mixed bag on the camera front. Good main and telephoto performance. A great front camera upgrade. But the glaring omission of an ultra-wide and the modest 2x zoom might be deal breakers for some. The OnePlus 13s runs OxygenOS 15, built on the latest Android 15. OnePlus is promising a solid 4 years of Android platform updates and an impressive 6 years of security updates, which is great for long-term usability. However, the software experience itself, according to the review, has seen some deterioration over the years, which is a shame for an OS once lauded for its clean and speedy nature. Several factors contribute to this. First, pre-installed apps. While some manufacturers are moving towards cleaner experiences, OnePlus seems to be doubling down. You'll find duplicate apps for many functions: 2 web browsers, 2 photo galleries, 2 file managers, 2 app stores, even 2 contacts apps. And the kicker? You can't uninstall most of these OnePlus alternatives. Then there are the notifications. OxygenOS can be quite insistent, frequently prompting you to manually optimize battery usage for apps, even when automatic management is enabled. These, along with other system notifications, pop up throughout the day, and you can't disable them. It's described as genuinely awful in how it wastes your time. Aggressive background app management is another sore point. Apps you opened earlier are very likely to be closed when you return to them. This can even affect testing apps that require background processing, as the phone might just quit them without warning, even with ample memory available. But it's not all doom and gloom. OxygenOS still has its strengths. It boasts robust multitasking capabilities, inherited from tablets and foldables, which are surprisingly functional even on this smaller screen. Customization options are extensive. The built-in apps, while sometimes superfluous, are generally well-functioning. Little touches, like an app used for sharing a file opening in its own floating window instead of taking over the entire screen, are appreciated. And importantly, the phone was perfectly stable during the review period, with no bugs reported. Now let's talk about a significant hardware change: the Plus key. Debuting on the 13s, this button officially ends the 11-year reign of the beloved alert slider, arguably the best physical switch on any Android phone. Just as the alert slider was inspired by the iPhone's ring/silent switch, the Plus key takes its cue from the iPhone's action button, and this time the inspiration is very direct. The settings menu for the Plus key is remarkably similar to the iPhone's interface but offers even fewer options, and you can only assign one function at a time. The alert slider was brilliant because it offered 3 distinct positions: silent, vibrate, ring. The Plus key, in contrast, feels like a step back. It's a single press and hold button. One might have expected Android's flexibility to bring multi-tap gestures, single, double, triple tap, or more diverse functions. Instead, it mimics the iPhone's singular press and hold, which feels like a massive underutilization of a dedicated physical button. A missed opportunity to innovate. Alongside the Plus key, the OnePlus 13s serves as the launchpad for OnePlus's foray into artificial intelligence, rather uncreatively titled OnePlus AI. This suite includes several new features. The flagship AI feature seems to be AI plus Mind. By default, it's assigned to the Plus key, though it can also be activated with a 3-finger swipe up. It captures a screenshot and then uses AI to analyze the content within. It can parse information like phone numbers, addresses, and dates, filing them along with the image. You can then easily click these details later to add them to your calendar, contacts, or open them in Maps. It can also summarize text within an image, and later this year, it's slated to automatically categorize saved content. Think of it as a souped-up screenshot utility. Other AI features include AI Voice Scribe for recording, summarizing, and translating calls in popular messaging, video, and online meeting apps. There's an AI call assistant with the new OnePlus Dialer app, currently exclusive to India, that can do real-time call translation and summarize regular phone calls. An AI search feature helps find content on your device. AI reframe assists with adjusting photo compositions. And coming later in the year is AI Best Face 2.0, which aims to automatically correct facial expressions in photos. A new AI translation app is also included, capable of on-screen text translation or translating audio playing through other apps. OnePlus has also announced improved integration with Google Gemini, which will now work within OnePlus apps like Notes and Clock. The initial assessment is that OnePlus's AI features seem somewhat limited, but are generally focused on practical, relevant use cases that users might actually find helpful. AI Plus Mind, for example, was found to be quite useful for quickly filing away information. The advice from the review is that OnePlus would do well to stick with such usable features rather than trying to create an AI that does everything for everyone. It's a decent start, but time will tell how truly indispensable these features become. When it comes to audio, the OnePlus 13s features stereo speakers, with the usual top earpiece and bottom firing grill setup. However, there's a notable change. OnePlus has stopped including Dolby Atmos on its phones with the 13 series, opting instead for Oppo's O-Reality audio processing. This is described as a regrettable decision, especially considering the flagship branding. It means you won't get native Atmos audio in apps that offer it, like Apple Music, which is a bummer for audiophiles. In terms of actual sound quality, the speakers on the OnePlus 13s unfortunately don't impress. The review suggests clear compromises were made regarding the internal volume allocated to the speaker chambers, resulting in a sound profile that's somewhat tinny. While the speakers can get plenty loud, they lack the body, richness, and depth found in other flagship devices in this segment. The iPhones are noted for their more resounding audio, though they too make compromises elsewhere. So, if immersive audio is high on your priority list, the 13s might leave you wanting more. So, after all this, what's the damage to the wallet? The OnePlus 13s is priced at 55,999 Indian rupees in India, and this price point is key to understanding its place in the market. The review explicitly states that while it has flagship aspirations, it's also not priced like one. When you compare it to true no-compromise flagships like a Samsung Galaxy S25 or current S24, or a Google Pixel 9 Pro or current Pixel 8 Pro, the OnePlus 13s is significantly cheaper. It doesn't aim to be as feature-complete as those top-tier devices, and its price reflects that. The value proposition here seems to be for those who desire that flagship-level processing power and a great large battery in a more manageable form factor, but don't necessarily have the budget for a full-priced premium flagship. The OnePlus 13s aims to get you most of the way there without emptying your bank account. It's about providing core flagship experiences where it counts for its target audience, at a more accessible price. So where does that leave us with the OnePlus 13s? It's undoubtedly a neat little package. It delivers on its promise of being compact, in the modern sense, and easy to handle, with a design that's generally pleasing. The display is genuinely great, a joy to look at. The Snapdragon 8 Elite chip ensures performance is snappy and responsive, and that large 5,850 mAh battery will likely outlast many competitors in this size category, offering excellent endurance. The cameras that are present, particularly the main and the upgraded front shooter, perform well. However, the flagship claim is where things get a bit blurry. The review uses a great analogy. Like an ill-conceived RPG character build, the OnePlus 13s seems to have poured all its skill points into two main stats, the powerful chip and the big battery in a compact body. To achieve this specific combination, several compromises had to be made along the way. The build quality, while feeling premium, takes a hit with only an IP65 rating. The camera system is a mixed bag, with the controversial omission of an ultra-wide lens and a telephoto that's only 2x and lacks OIS. The speakers are underwhelming for a device with flagship ambitions. The charging situation is strong with 80W wired, but the lack of wireless charging is a definite miss. Add to that the awkwardly placed optical fingerprint sensor, not the superior ultrasonic, and the baffling inclusion of a slower USB 2.0 port instead of USB 3, and the flagship veneer starts to crack. The OxygenOS experience, while fast, is marred by bloatware and annoying notifications. And the new Plus key feels more like a downgrade from the iconic alert slider than a useful innovation. So the bold claims of being a flagship don't quite hold up under intense scrutiny. But, and this is a big but, as we discussed, at its Indian price of 55,999 Indian rupees, it's also not demanding a true flagship price. It's not trying to be a Galaxy S25 killer feature for feature. If you have flagship aspirations, particularly wanting that top-tier speed and long battery life in a phone that won't stretch your hand or your wallet to its limits, the OnePlus 13s might just be a very compelling option. It's a device that seems to understand its target audience, those who prioritize performance and endurance in a manageable size, and are willing to overlook some premium niceties to get it at a more palatable price. Ultimately, the OnePlus 13s is a phone that's easy on the pocket, both literally and figuratively. It's a strong contender, as long as you understand its specific strengths and the compromises made to achieve them. It's not a perfect flagship, but it might just be the perfect, compact powerhouse for the right person.